time to get down with the breakdown. This is Jeff, aka Machamp Bailey, and it's time for the Bragging Rights Breakdown. Alright, so before we get started on the bulk of the video, there's a lot of stuff that's been happening obviously in the first week here before the game start. This happens every season, but there's actually some that's kind of odd. For instance, Bridgewater getting a season-ending injury in the preseason. That's a big one, and the Vikings have been scrambling to find some spots. I want to know from you guys, do you think this is going to really spell the season end for them, or if it's going to affect some players like Diggs or Peterson, or do you think that the new Bradford trade is going to help cover that? All right. On top of that, Bradford did get traded from the Eagles over to the Vikings, making Carson Wentz the starter for the Eagles, for the Eagles, which is real interesting. Got a young rookie coming in, and Bradford taking that #1 spot over at the Vikings. Just a really odd kind of trade going on for 2 draft spots, though, so it could work out really well for the Eagles. And speaking of draft spots, they did lose a couple because the Broncos dropped Mark Sanchez, who was immediately picked up by the Cowboys. And the Broncos then picked up Austin Davis as a 3rd string. Obviously, there's a lot more going on around the league than just this, but these are the big ones specifically with quarterbacks that are going around. So keep an eye on everything moving because there are a lot of moving parts right now. Make sure when you check your lineups that you do pay attention to some of those factors. In lieu of the usual weekly awards, since there are no results yet, I'm going to introduce the awards for the newbies just to get you familiar with them, because I don't want to explain them every single week. If you have ideas for other awards, please feel free to text me and let me know. I'm always welcome to doing a few more. I don't want to add too many just because it does take me a little bit of time to assemble all this. But here are the awards that I'm going to hand out throughout the year. So all these are going to be weekly, of course. Juggernaut is the person with the most points, plain and simple. Kingslayer is the biggest underdog beating a favorite. Specifically, if the top 3 person loses to somebody that's in the bottom half, that's typically going to take that spot. The Lombardi is the highest scoring started player. Hopefully he's not on your bench. Tough Luck is the highest score that actually lost, so they should have beat most of the league, but they went against the 1 or 2 people that actually could have beat them. On the opposite side of that is the Luck Out, which is one of the lowest scorers that won, so they would have only been able to beat 1 or 2 people, and they happen to play one of those 2 people. Teabag, largest victory margin, so if you get beat by 30 points, expect it to be showing up here. Bonehead, which is the most bench points, meaning if you forgot to start somebody, you accidentally started somebody who sat and somebody else on your bench went bigger. That's typically what's going to happen. Failed Prophet was the person who was predicted to win but lost by and the largest margin on that one. This one's kind of hard to explain, but basically whoever was predicted to win by the most but actually lost is how that would typically go. Space Cadet is a person who started the most 0-point players, and this could be anybody who just didn't play well, injured players, or bye-week players especially. I'm going to really be hitting you hard on those, so hopefully you stay on top of it. And Game of the Week is the closest scoring game, so if the game's only decided by a point or less, typically it will show up here. Now, again, some of those we're not going to have every week, like Kingslayer. It's not going to happen every week, especially the first couple of weeks, because we really don't have anybody that's a true leader yet. All right, but as we go throughout the season, you will get some of those. All right, so now on to the predictions, and this is where I go through and attempt to predict this week's winners. I will include other players' predictions as well, as long as that I have them by, let's just say, Tuesday night, just because I do usually record these on Tuesday. Now, that being said, this week we only have one other person predicting with me, so try and remember to send me those predictions if you want to get in on it, and I will definitely get them in the video, all right? So, first up, Machamp Bailey versus the Fisters. All right, so here we go. The Fisters are newbies and have a disadvantage at running back, but I do have to go with the projections here and say that they will actually beat me out week 1. I'm a slight underdog here. everything is really untested still, even though, you know, the predictions are hard to go by. I am going to follow them on this one. But frankly, they have beginner's luck running for them, and I can't ever discredit that. This game does come back down to quite a bit of luck as well as skill. So I'm not going to discredit that beginner's luck, and I got to say they're going to end up taking it, especially if some of their questionable players end up playing. Chris Folks disagrees with me. He thinks that I'm going to take this one as an underdog. Just again, same thing. It's really just all untested at this point. Project Badass versus Bala on a budget. So just like the first game of the NFL season, the Broncos versus the Panthers, this is a rematch of the Super Bowl from last year for those of you joining us. While unintentional, it is kind of fun just to have that Super Bowl rematch to kick off the season. As it sits, Brian has a slight edge in the projections, but Foley has a clear matchup advantage in all the positions. So this one's really kind of a toss-up. Except for 3 slots, Brian does have an advantage. I think Brian will take this one straight up because the advantage in the running back position. This is where it really gets into my predictions for the season. I think it's going to be a big year for running backs. I feel like there's a lot of passing last year, a lot of failed attempts to establish the run. I think that a lot of teams are going to come right out the gate with some heavy running. So I think especially first week, the running backs are going to take it. And since Brian's 2 of his 3 advantages are in running back, I'm going with him. So Bala on a budget to win there. And Chris Folks agrees with that pick for different reasons, but same thing, right? Holder like a six-pack versus a team has no name. If you watched my preseason video where I analyzed teams through an analyzer, you will know that this match is between the worst and the best draft. If you haven't seen that video, go check it out. It's still on the League Manager note. Also, if you're obviously watching this on YouTube, it'll probably be over in the oh, there you go, over here on the side. Otherwise, it might be in the recommended videos somewhere. I'm not going to put a link just because I'm lazy. Actually, I'll probably end up putting a link anyway. But these 2 teams were Holder like the six-pack was projected as the worst draft, whereas a team has no name was projected as the best. Chris does have the clear advantage on nearly all position and is projected as almost a 20-point winner over Connor. Connor, I hope you prove me wrong. I hope you prove the projections wrong, but I got to go with Chris on this one. Chris obviously agrees with me because it's his team, and he typically does pick himself. Balls deep versus the Cowboys. The battle of the Z's, always, right? With a long list of injured players, I'm surprised the projections aren't further off. As of right now, Chris S. has 5 injured players in his lineup, 4 of them questionable, 1 of them out. Need to make sure that you get on top of that, Chris, and keep an eye on those questionables, but that one that's out, you really need to switch out. But despite this, he has an advantage in the position lineup, but loses in the projections. Frankly, unless everything goes perfect and all 4 of those questionable players end up playing and that player that's out gets swapped out, I have a hard time not taking Luke in this one. Frankly, the Cowboys are going to win this one, and Chris agrees with me on this. Stu Pedasso versus fire-breathing rubber duckies. This one is one of the toughest matchups that I had to try and predict. I'm unfamiliar with Jason's play style and how he chooses his players. So he could overcome the slight projection deficit, but his team does have an advantage in position lineup. Mike's team looks built for big games, though. So, again, it's really kind of a toss-up. Chris Folks pointed out a slightly better matchup in the matchup rankings against the defenses, and I have to agree with him. Two of Jason's players are facing the Vikings defense, who are rated in the top 5 to 10. Likewise, 2 more are facing the Cardinals, that are typically ranked at 2 or 3 right now, if not number 1. And with Tom Brady out for New England and they're facing the Cardinals, I have a hard time seeing those players really putting up some big points. I think Jason loses, but a big game by either of the teams would really swing it to Jason's side. And by that, I mean by New England or the other 2 that are playing against the Vikings. That being said, Firebird, as I like to call him, because if you look at the initials, FBRD, has both mine and Chris's predictions over Stu Pedasso. Beats by Ray versus Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Here's the last one. It's time to see if Nate can put up the record numbers that he did last year. According to projections, he will take this, but they are very close, even on the position-by-position comparison. With Tom Brady suspended, Rob is going to have a little bit of a hard time. He does have Dalton, so that is what it's worth. For some reason, though, this is purely my gut. I'm taking Beats by Ray. I don't know why. I feel his receivers are going to be the deciding factor in this game, despite my earlier prediction of teams trying to establish a run. On top of that, Rob has the #1 starter of DeAndre Hopkins, while Nate only has the #2. Again, it could go either way. For some reason, my gut's telling me that Beats by Ray is going to take this. Chris, of course, goes with the popular vote here and sticks with Nate. So there we have it. I hope you will send in your predictions for next week so I can add them to the list. I know last season we had 5 or 6 people going, and it's a lot more fun when I get to add a lot of people into the actual video. Not to mention, it gives us a little bit of a bragging rights, since that is the name of our league, for whoever has the best prediction record. Again, it's just another side little fun thing to do. Last but not least, before I get going, I'm going to put up a poll in the league right here. Let me know what you like about these videos. If you'd like me to cut down the predictions a little bit more, if you'd like me to go over the news a little bit more, if you'd like me to have more guest stars on here, from, obviously people around the league. Just basically let me know what you want to see out of these videos and how long they can be. I know this one's a little long, somewhere around the 10-minute mark. So if this is too long, please, by all means, let me know. I will try and cut it down as much as I can because I know that we are all busy. But let me know what you'd like to see in these videos is the big thing. All right. Until next week, don't forget to set your lineup, and I'll catch you downfield.